Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which for this podcast means 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or just storytelling in some form or fashion. So I've got my 6 things together, really ready to be with you all again after a couple weeks, and let's get started. So number 1, I am over 30,000 words on my latest work in progress, which is called Time Stream. And I think it's been going pretty smoothly. I've been able to stay ahead of my word count goal, so should definitely be on track to finish it by the end of the month. And I think it's going about as smoothly as a first draft can in my experience. I haven't not had any major points where I feel stuck or have to do any major overhauls, although sometimes that happens around this point where I start to realize the climax I had planned is just not going to cut it or, something is just off. So we'll see. But so far, I haven't had any of that. It's really been pretty straightforward as far as the actual moving through the story. But first drafts, for me anyway, are just always still very hard. Like, it's very hard to summon up the motivation to write when I sit down. And a lot of that is just because it feels like the writing quality is just so bad. Like, every time I write something new, it just feels like this is so boring, like this is so poorly written, it's just the absolute worst. Like, I know I've talked about this before, but the only way I can push through at this point, in my writing journey is because I've done it so many times. And so I know that the actual truth is that I'm going to, number 1, go back and look at it and realize it's really not anywhere close to as bad as I thought. And number 2, the parts that are weak, I can fix. And so it's okay. Right now, the important thing is just to push through, get the words written, get the story out on paper, and then I can go back and polish the things like, word choice and, fill in details that I need to and things like that. Those are easy to do later and much easier to do when the bones of the story is already there, on the page. So because of those things, I'm like, it'll be okay. Like, it feels really bad right now, but if I keep pushing through, then I'll have something I can go back and look at and fix. So it's fine, but it's definitely rough. Like I said, just motivating myself to push through those words every day, which I'll talk a little bit more later about how I've kind of been managing to do that the past couple weeks. But anyway, over 30,000 words, so that's well over halfway through. And I think, again, it's going as well as can be possibly expected. Number 2, I'm actually almost done editing the last chapter of the new edition of the Rady Alloway audiobook. And I'm so happy with how it's turned out. I think the audio quality is definitely the best of any audiobook I've ever done. It's gone really smoothly, and I'm really excited to get that up. First, I've got to replace the book that's already up on Audible and other places you can buy audiobooks, and then I'm going to get it up on YouTube. So I can start, number 1, just get it out there for people to listen to and enjoy. And I'm really excited that YouTube can hopefully give me the opportunity to provide audiobooks for free for people, while hopefully also being able to eventually monetize. And I think that'll be a really good system. We'll see how it goes. But either way, I'm for sure going to get this one up there, and I'll let y'all know when that happens. And then I'll probably also start promoting my YouTube channel more, because I'm also almost done putting all my old podcast episodes up there. And so that'll free up some time to work more on promoting it, getting in some subscribers, getting people to watch stuff. Because again, I have to hit a certain number of hours watched and stuff like that before I can monetize. So, but it's going well. And I actually also started recording the In His Image audiobook, which is something I've wanted to do for basically like a decade. Like, ever since In His Image was published, I've been intending to do an audiobook of it. I've been wanting to do audiobooks for the entire series and have just, for various reasons, never gotten around to it. But I did record the first chapter and hoping to do some more over the next couple weeks, and then just really work on moving through the whole series, maybe some of my other books as well. And I'll keep y'all updated on that. But the plan currently is for all of those to go on YouTube. We'll kind of assess as it goes, but either way, they'll be getting recorded and produced. So I'm super excited about that finally happening. Number three, one of the ways I've kind of had to resort to getting the motivation to get my word count done each day is I have just found that the place where I'm in right now in my brain writing it, where it just feels like I'm just slogging through quicksand to try to get words written, I am just not able to summon the motivation to sit down and write 1,000 words at once. And like, I know I physically can do that. I mean, I used to do these word wars with other writers where I would write 1,000 words in like 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm like, if I could just do that, then I could knock out my writing for the whole day and it would be great. But just mentally, it's just rough. Like I was really struggling doing that. So what I've been starting to do, I know I talked about this a little last time, but I've been a little bit more intentional with it the past couple weeks, is I'm just kind of splitting the writing up into bits of a few hundred words rather than kind of a whole thousand. So I'll do like, if I sit down in the morning and tell myself, I only have to write like 300, 400 words, that's really not very much. Like that's basically like a few paragraphs, And so if I do that and then I go into the afternoon when I would rather just be resting, but still I can tell myself, like I just have a few hundred words to do and then be done. And it's a lot easier to get myself to just sit down and power through a few hundred words than to look and know that I have 1,000 of them looming ahead of me. So that's kind of what I've been doing. My goal has been to get like half of it done in the morning. So to get like at least, 500. That's not going to happen today because I have the podcast to do and a few other extra things I have to get done this morning. So honestly, today I'm probably going to have to do all 1,000 later in the day, which is not my favorite. But again, part of writing or doing anything in general, and especially trying to work something like this around family and life, and this not being like a 9 to 5 job, like this is sort of a side job / hobby. I have to be able to be flexible and to say like, oh, we're going to do it like this today. And you know what, today it's not going to happen, but I'm still going to stay on track and, push through and be consistent overall, consistent over time, even if day to day can sometimes look a little different. So that's what's been working for me right now. And I know it's going to change, which for me feels unfortunate because I would much rather just lock it in, one routine for all time, but that's not how life works. So for now, this is what works. So number 4, as you probably know, we're getting close to Christmas, which means people are starting to send out catalogs, which almost, you used to get catalogs in the mail pretty often when I was a kid, and now you almost never do. At least I almost never do, except around Christmas we'll get like a few things. And so Amazon has their Christmas, their toy catalog that they send out about this time of year. We just got ours in the mail. And it's very genius on their part because not only, is it a toy catalog, so of course kids are going to look at it and want to tell their parents what they want, but also they have all these little activities throughout, like little mazes and word searches and, excuse me, fun little stickers and stuff like that. So kids are really invested in wanting to look through this catalog. So I've always given it to my oldest, Violet, to just look through and enjoy and do the activities and stuff. And that's always been fine. And I have sometimes gotten some ideas of stuff to get her for Christmas and stuff. So this year it came and I was like, oh, here, you can look at this. I looked through it first because you just never know these days. But I gave it to her. I was like, okay, you can look at this and you can do the activities and you can do whatever, color in it, whatever you want to do. So what she decided to do with it is she has been, for the past few days, ever since she got it, just poring over this catalog, getting paper and just making lists of all the things she thinks that we should get. And not just for her, she's making lists for all the other kids too. Like she's very serious about it, and not just about, oh, this thing looks cool. Like she will read the description, and she's very, very serious about the suggested ages in there. Like she'll be like, okay, this one is ages 6 and up. But this one's 7 and up, so none of us are 7 or up. We can't get that one. And she'll even be like, well, I saw this really cool thing, but it said ages, 4 and up, and Lolly is only 3, so that wouldn't be fair to her, and I don't want her to feel left out, so we're not going to get that one. And I keep reminding her, I'm not promising we're going to get any of this stuff. You can tell me what you want because I want to know and I care about it. And maybe I'll get some ideas, but we might not get any of this stuff. Like, I just want to make sure you know. And she's like, yeah, I know. So we'll see. But it's just so funny. Like, now she can read, it's this whole world, and she really likes to go by the book. And so, this thing says it's for these ages, and so that is the absolute truth. But it's been very sweet to see her having, that consideration for younger siblings as well. Like, she'll be like, oh, I wanted this game, but it says 6 and up, and that wouldn't really be fair to the other girls. So I'm ending up with several lists of things that hopefully I will maybe get some ideas of stuff to get them. But it's just, yeah, well done, Amazon. Like, you know your target audience clearly, and probably will end up getting some of those gifts. So number 5, am I currently reading? I just started my book club book for this month, and I only just started it yesterday, so I'm only a few chapters in and can't really comment too much on it. I'll have to come back and update y'all when I finish. But so the book is called Bellman in Black by Diane Sutterfield. And I had heard of this author but never read anything by her, and apparently a lot of my friends really enjoy her work and have read other of her books as well. And so anyway, it is just not grabbing me so far. I don't remember, maybe like 4 or 5 chapters yesterday. And not only is it just not, like, there's some stuff I don't like about it, some of the content, and then just, it's just not grabbing me. And then I'm finding the writing itself to be kind of confusing. Like, I'm surprised for like and maybe it could 100% be just me, but I normally don't read, very like well-known authors and have this problem where several times so far, just in these first few chapters, I would say maybe like at least 4 or 5 times, I've had to stop and go back and read something like multiple times over again to try to understand what's being said. And it's not because it's like super intellectual or anything. It's just because I could not figure out who was talking to who or what character they were referring to or stuff like that. And that, that just really pulls you out of a story. And again, like, this is a popular author, and I know some of my friends that have finished the book already really liked it. So I'm thinking, maybe it's just me, maybe it's something about my brain, but regardless, I'm struggling. So again, I'm definitely not judging it yet because it's still so early, but so far it hasn't gotten a lot of points in my book. So I don't know. We'll just see how it goes. I'm curious because it definitely is sort of unusual and makes you curious about what's going on. So I like that, obviously. And so hopefully that sort of continues and builds and pays off. And maybe whatever is confusing me about the writing style, maybe I'll get used to it and not feel that way and keep getting taken out of the story. That would be great. So we'll see. But I will be sure to update y'all on that one. So number 6, there's a book that several people had recommended to me a few months back. I saw it recommended online a bunch of times. My sister actually texted me to suggest it. And then the teen girls in my book club, the daughters of the book club, the main book club members, they had their own, junior book club, and they read this book too. And I think a lot of them really enjoyed it. So I decided I should read it. And it is called Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. And I know a lot of people that really like Brandon Sanderson, and I have just never really pursued his writing. Partly just I have a lot of other books to read, but also like fantasy is just not really my genre. I don't usually go out of my way to read fantasy. So I just wasn't really that interested. But so many people had gone on about this book and said it was really interesting and different and charming and all of that. So I decided to read it, and I definitely agree. I really enjoyed it. It's very unique, and I think there's a lot of things I really liked about it, but for me, the best part was just the narration, like the way the narrator says things, the metaphors that he uses, and just, I don't know, the way things are described. All of that was unusual and really enjoyable and just fun, just like fun to read, like the whole, like all of it. Like the story was also enjoyable. There's some good twists, and the heroine was just great. Like, I loved her. A very good character, a very good lead character, but ultimately it was that narration that really made it like pushed it up into like 5-star category for me. And there also was, I appreciated just a lot of common sense that you don't see a lot, and especially sometimes in like young adult fiction, which this is. Like one of my absolute favorite parts is toward the beginning, before the main character ends up setting off on her journey. She goes to talk to her parents first, and it says in the narration, this is something that more people in these kinds of books should do. And it's like, yes, thank you. Good parents that love and support her and that she does not want to rebel against. Like, what a novelty. So I loved, and just a lot of other stuff. Like, there were things where normally you would see characters jumping to conclusions, and it would make a note that, that's not smart, so she didn't do that, or whatever. Like, I ended up really liking it. The one thing, there was one aspect that I liked and was unsure about at the same time. And I kind of have done a lot of thinking about, I don't know whether it's good or not. And that's just the world building. So it's very unique world building. And in a lot of ways, I really liked it. I liked that it was unique. I liked that it was different than most fantasy, because a lot of the reason I don't like a lot of fantasy is that sometimes it can tend to just feel sort of all the same to me. And this was very different. And so I appreciated that. And it made me wish that I could visualize things in my head, because I could tell the visuals would be really stunning. So basically, in this world, sorry, excuse me, in this world, the sea is not water. The sea is spores that are spilled from these, I believe, 7 moons. And there's this whole like mythology or whatever, like stuff behind it that it kind of gets into at some point. So that there's just, but the spores are also super dangerous, and they have these different properties, and, they can't touch water, or, they'll react. And, so anyway, it's all this stuff. And it explains how ships can sail on these seas of spores and all this stuff. And so that, again, I liked it because it was so unique, and because they're like spilling from the moons and they're different colors and they do all these different things. I was like, I really want to see a movie of this, because I want to be able to see it. It sounds just stunning visually. But I did get a feeling for a lot of the book that this is it kind of felt a little double mumbo jumbo to me. Now I know I've talked about this before, but in case you don't remember or haven't heard, double mumbo jumbo is something from a book called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, which just tells you kind of a lot of good general rules for storytelling. And so if basically this applies to speculative fiction, so science fiction and fantasy. If your science fiction or fantasy has more than one sort of outlandish thing that readers have to believe, he calls it double mumbo jumbo. So if it's like, oh, in this world people can fly, and also, dogs can talk, or whatever, I don't know. But basically you should only ask your audience to believe one sort of outlandish, fantastic thing. And but the reason it can get a little complicated is because you can say, well, like, the thing is that there's magic in my world, so now magic can do all these different kinds of things, but it's still really only one thing. So anyway, that's why it's not really that black and white. And I kind of had a feel like for a while, for a lot of the time that I was reading the book, it felt a little much. Like there's all these different spores and they do different things, and it felt pretty arbitrary to me, like, oh, well, these spores will grow vines and these will like make little creatures you can control with your mind, or whatever. Hopefully none of this is too bad spoilers if you haven't read the book. But it just was, it felt like too much to me. Like, so even, and that's the thing with these rules, I mean, they're not like, absolute, like, it's not like the Bible. Like, you can break the rules if it works. And so the double mumbo jumbo is about not making people, like, it's about letting them suspend their disbelief and not stretching that too far to where they can't believe your story. So a lot of it is sort of, if it feels like it, then it kind of is, because I was feeling that sort of overwhelm of like, this is just a lot of new and weird stuff to try to take in one story. But then, like, by the end of the book, it kind of did feel a little more cohesive. And I think that's partly, just having read more of it and being more used to it, but also partly like it did get into a little more sort of interesting things about, why this happens. But there still were things like there's also a sorceress and these creatures from, I guess, other worlds that are not really ever explained. So some of that I still feel at the end of the day was a little bit, just made it a little difficult for me as a reader to kind of accept all of these weird and different and strange and new and unusual things. But ultimately, like, the book was so charming and enjoyable and refreshing in a way that I didn't like, I think I still gave it, 5 stars. I didn't count that against it, but it just got me thinking, especially as a speculative fiction writer, like, I want to be aware of that. And, everyone has different thresholds, so you can't please everyone, but it is something I want to think about, like, not stretching the audience's suspension of disbelief too far to the point where it just feels like too much and that they can't get a grasp on what is this world and what are the rules of it and how does it work, and stuff like that. So anyway, just that's something I've been thinking about. And also definitely if you enjoy fantasy at all, for sure, but also just like whimsical, unusual stories with some good writing, Tress of the Emerald Sea, definitely a good one. So yeah, if you read it, hope you enjoy it. So thank you all so much for listening. Like I said at the beginning, I know it's been a couple weeks at this point. I think it's been a while that I've been doing them, more like every couple weeks. And I just have a lot going on. And then also I keep having allergies, so my voice keeps not being 100%. But really wanted to touch base with y'all this week and just update you on everything that's going on and some of the things that I've been thinking about. So please reach out and let me know. If you've read Tress of the Emerald Sea, if you've read Bellman in Black or any of that author's other works, let me know. Let me know what you think. Do you think I'm correct or do you disagree? Would love to have discussions about any of that. And then any suggestions for, kids' gifts on Amazon. And obviously, they have to be for ages 3 and up or it's not fair for our family. So be sure to let me know about all of that. I love discussing any of these things with friends and just fellow story lovers. So thank you all so much for listening. Hope that everyone has a great day and a great weekend ahead, and stay improbable. Bye.